Hey Steelers fans, it's time to dig into the state of the team and take a hard look at what's going on with this defense. If you've been watching the games lately, you know the story already. It's not pretty. The defense has been struggling at every level, and it's tough to watch. When a unit is consistently getting beaten, when plays that should be routine turn into huge gains for the other team, it's obvious that something has to change. And it's not just one player or one coach. It's an entire system that's underperforming. Everyone from the head coach down to the positional coaches, everyone has had a hand in how we got here. That said, you have to start somewhere, and right now, the secondary is where the spotlight needs to be. There's no way around it. Watching some of these matchups, it's clear that coverage and tackling are major problems. And when you look at one of the most experienced corners on the roster, the stats paint a troubling picture. Darius Slay has had a legendary career, there's no denying that. A five-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion, a true veteran who's done it all. But every player eventually runs into the one opponent no one can beat, Father Time. At 34 years old, he's 2 years older than any other corner in the league. And while experience counts for a lot, age inevitably impacts performance at this level. This season, the numbers don't lie. Quarterbacks are completing almost 80% of passes thrown in his direction, which is a huge jump from his career average of just under 60%. His passer rating allowed has skyrocketed to over 115, compared to 85 across his career, and missed tackles have doubled. Watching the game against the Packers, there were moments where he simply couldn't bring anyone down, avoiding contact in ways that would make any coach wince. It's not about calling him out personally. It's about what's best for the team. And in situations like this, it's reasonable to consider benching a player or adjusting their role, even a veteran like Slay. That could mean fewer snaps, moving him inside, using him only in specific packages. It's about getting the best defensive output possible with the personnel available. And right now, it's clear the current approach isn't cutting it. The Steelers' defense is struggling at the halfway point of the season, sitting at the bottom of the league rankings, and something has to shift to stop the slide. If you look at the younger talent on the roster, there are glimpses of potential. Brandon Eccles, for instance, has shown flashes of real promise. In his limited time on the field, his coverage numbers are significantly better than what we're seeing from the veteran starters. Quarterbacks completing only about 63% of passes against him, and a passer rating under 55 shows that he can hold his own. And when it comes to tackling, he's bringing people down with consistency, missing very few opportunities. There's energy, fight, and athleticism in a younger player that the team desperately needs right now. The coaches will have to determine how best to utilize him, whether inside or outside, but it's impossible to ignore that fresh legs and a sharp approach could spark the defense in a way the current setup hasn't managed to do. Looking at the coaching side, questions about leadership and strategy are unavoidable. Mike Tomlin has been in the league for years and has had great success, but the game evolves constantly. Defensive schemes today are complex, with multiple options, counters, and adjustments required on the fly. It's not the same game it was when he first started. The team's current struggles aren't necessarily a reflection of a lack of knowledge or effort. It's the pace of a league, the sophistication of offensive strategies, and the challenge of keeping a defense both cohesive and adaptive in real time. What stands out is the pattern of adjustments, or lack thereof, during games. There are times when something glaringly obvious needs to be corrected, and nothing changes until halftime or even later. That's where the coordination between coaches and players becomes critical. Positional coaches like Terrell Austin work on the plan throughout the week, putting together strategies and anticipating plays. On game day, the execution falls to those calling the plays, with the head coach overseeing the process. Tomlin has the final say, but the system relies heavily on communication and trust among the staff and players. When the connection isn't seamless, the defense suffers, and the results show. The reality for Steelers fans right now is tough. Watching the secondary get exposed, seeing gaps in coverage, missed tackles, and a lack of pressure on opposing quarterbacks, it's hard not to feel frustrated. Every single facet of the defense, from the veterans to the rookies, from the line to the linebackers, is connected. When one piece falters, it magnifies weaknesses elsewhere. And at 34 years old, even the most accomplished veterans can struggle to keep up with the speed and precision required. That doesn't erase their past achievements, but it does highlight that change, or at least adjustment, is necessary to remain competitive. There's also the human element. Football isn't just about numbers, it's about timing, reaction, and instinct. A younger player like Eccles brings agility and freshness that can shift momentum. When he's on the field, he's making plays, tackling effectively, and limiting yards after catch. The contrast between the established veterans and emerging talent can't be ignored, especially when the stats back up the eye test. The key is trusting the coaches to manage these transitions effectively, placing players where they can have the most impact while maintaining overall defensive balance. Halfway through the season, there's no hiding from the numbers. The Steelers' defense ranks at the bottom, and the secondary has been a particular weak spot. Changes are unavoidable if the team wants to turn things around. It's not about blame. It's about performance, adjustments, and maximizing the potential of every player on the roster. With young players showing promise and experienced veterans facing physical limitations, the coaching staff has a crucial decision to make about how to best configure the defense moving forward. Fans watching from the stands know the frustration all too well. Missed tackles, blown coverages, and an inability to slow opposing offenses are the headlines week after week. Every play counts, and when the fundamentals aren't executed, it's glaringly obvious. The energy of the team, the communication between the coaches and the players, and the willingness to adapt all come into play when trying to reverse a struggling unit's trajectory. At this point, nothing short of tangible changes can spark the defensive improvement needed. When you talk about Mike Tomlin and the state of this defense, you can't ignore how much the game has evolved since he first took over the Steelers. Back then, defensive football was built on physical dominance, on beating your opponent man-to-man, forcing turnovers, and setting the tone early. But today's league is different. Offenses move faster, use pre-snap motion constantly, and manipulate matchups with analytics and precision. It's not just about raw talent anymore. It's about adaptability. That's where it feels like the Steelers have fallen behind. The systems and reactions on the field don't always match the speed of the offenses they're facing. Tomlin's reputation as a defensive-minded coach still carries weight, but the definition of defensive specialist in today's NFL isn't the same as it used to be. Years ago, a head coach could rely on instinct and experience to guide his defense. Now, it's a chess match driven by data, tendencies, and immediate adjustments. The Steelers don't lack smart football minds, but it seems that their defensive coordination has become too rigid, too dependent on sticking with the plan instead of reacting in real time. You can see in games where the same mistakes happen over and over until halftime adjustments are made, and by then, the damage is already done. There's also the matter of accountability. When the defense breaks down, everyone looks to the head coach. But Tomlin isn't calling every defensive play. He oversees, steps in when necessary, and sets the tone for preparation during the week. Terrell Austin handles the play calling, while positional coaches refine the details. On paper, it's a solid structure. In practice, though, it's showing cracks. The delay in adjustments, the predictable coverage calls, and the inability to disguise blitzes effectively are all signs of a defense that's reacting instead of dictating. That's not what the Steelers' identity used to be. Fans remember the days when the Pittsburgh defense was feared, when quarterbacks had to plan their entire week around avoiding pressure, when receivers barely had room to breathe. That legacy still matters to this fan base, which is why watching the current struggles hurts even more. When the fundamentals break down, tackling, coverage, communication, the rest of the scheme doesn't matter. No amount of film, study, or preparation can compensate for missed tackles in open space or corners who lose position on deep routes. It's also fair to say that leadership plays a huge role in situations like this. Tomlin's greatest strength has always been his ability to connect with players, to keep a locker room united even when the season gets rough. That quality is what has kept the Steelers competitive for so many years, even when the roster wasn't elite. But leadership has to translate into accountability and execution on Sundays. Motivation and culture alone can't mask schematic weaknesses. The question now is whether this coaching staff is willing to evolve as quickly as the league demands. Some of the frustration from the fan base is understandable. People watching from the stands or their couches can see the same open receivers, the same lack of pass rush impact, and the same defensive miscommunication week after week. It's one thing to lose because of talent gaps. It's another to lose because of mental mistakes or slow adjustments. That's where the conversation about modernization comes into play. The league's best defenses today don't just rely on stars. They rely on precision and fluid systems that can adapt mid-drive, not just mid-game. And there's another angle to consider: the trust between coaches and players. In the best defensive units the Steelers have ever had, that trust was absolute. Think back to the days when Dick LeBeau ran the defense. The players knew the system inside out. They trusted his vision, and he trusted their instincts. It was a partnership built on communication and belief. That kind of chemistry can't be manufactured. It has to be earned. Right now, it feels like that connection isn't as strong as it once was. When defenders hesitate, when they're unsure of their assignments, even a half-second delay can be the difference between a stop and a touchdown. So what's next? That's the big question hovering over this season. If this defense continues to underperform, the pressure on the coaching staff will only grow. It's not just about saving face. It's about setting the foundation for the future. This roster has young talent waiting to be developed. Players like Eccles who show promise when given the opportunity. It's on the coaches to recognize when it's time to pass the torch, when a veteran's leadership is no longer enough to outweigh declining performance. It's a delicate balance, respecting what players like Slay have accomplished while also doing what's necessary to improve the team now. The fan who wrote in after that loss had a point. Watching receivers run wide open, seeing the defense look lost in coverage, and witnessing the lack of urgency can make any loyal supporter sick to their stomach. The Steelers have built their identity for decades on defense, on toughness, grit, and pride. When that identity fades, it's not just about numbers or rankings. It's about what the team stands for. That's why so many people are questioning what exactly Tomlin is bringing to the table right now. Maybe the answer isn't simple. Maybe it's not about one scheme or one player. Maybe it's about evolution, a willingness to adapt to a league that looks nothing like it did 10 or even 5 years ago. The best coaches evolve with the game, not behind it. They find ways to reinvent their systems without losing their core philosophy. Tomlin has done that before. The question now is whether he can do it again and whether this roster can respond before the season slips too far out of reach. The Steelers still have time to correct their course, but it has to start with honest evaluation. No more excuses, no more waiting for things to magically click. The talent is there, the coaching experience is there, but until the team embraces change, it's going to be the same story every week. And for a franchise built on defensive pride, that's just not acceptable. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Pittsburgh might be on the verge of something seismic. Whispers are growing louder around the league that Justin Herbert, the Los Angeles Chargers' Golden Arm quarterback, has reportedly accepted a proposal from the Pittsburgh Steelers, a move that could completely reshape the AFC landscape. While no official announcement has been made, sources close to both camps suggest that the deal is all but done, pending final contract details and league approval. The rumor began swirling late Sunday night, when several insiders noted unusual activity in the Steelers' front office. Late meetings, travel arrangements, and a sudden media blackout. Herbert, who has long been seen as the Chargers' franchise cornerstone, has struggled under the weight of inconsistent coaching and a patchy offensive line in Los Angeles. A move to a franchise like Pittsburgh, with its historic pedigree, passionate fan base, and hard-nosed culture, could offer the fresh start he's been craving. If true, this would be the most shocking quarterback move since Russell Wilson's departure from Seattle. The Steelers, still searching for a long-term successor to Ben Roethlisberger, have cycled through several options with mixed results. Herbert would instantly change that narrative. His rocket arm, calm under pressure, and leadership could turn Pittsburgh back into a contender almost overnight. There are questions, of course. How would the Steelers afford such a deal? Who goes the other way? Kenny Pickett, draft picks, or both? And perhaps more importantly, how will the Chargers' locker room respond if their star quarterback walks out the door? For now, neither team has commented publicly, and Herbert's camp has remained silent. But the NFL world is buzzing. If this blockbuster truly happens, it won't just shift the balance of power in the AFC. It could ignite one of the most fascinating quarterback storylines in recent memory. Stay tuned, because something big might be brewing in the Steel City. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.